Hello and welcome to another comedian's interview for my blog Arichcomiclife. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 800 comedians and counting over the last 46 years. And my guest today is the wonderful Mr. Mark Simmons. Yes! Hello! How are you?
Wow, you said you were going to go bananas and you went bananas.
How are you? You all right?
Yeah, that's the best intro I've had since lockdown.
Well, it's my pleasure and I'm delighted you're here, my friend. Thank you so much for doing this. It's going to be an interview all about your comic career, and I'd like to go way back to the start and ask, how did you become a comedian?
Wow, straight in. How did I become a comedian? It was kind of lucky, really.
Right.
So I finished university studying sport and exercise science, and then I started working in a gym, and then my friend, who also went to the gym, just started telling me that he's been on the stand-up open mic circuit in London for about a year and was telling me all about it, and I knew nothing about this world. Like, I didn't even know it existed. I just never come across it. And he just, because he used to make little sketch videos with his mates, and I used to love it because he was sort of local, and I just think, oh, I wish I was part of that gang. They're really cool. And then I just sort of said to him, when I was at uni, I filmed a few sketches and things with a couple of mates of mine, totally influenced by this friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he went, why don't you just come and do a gig? And I was like, at this point, I hated talking in front of people.
Yeah.
Like if it was a presentation at university or anything like that, I'd freeze. I hated it. Like at school, I'd have like. That kind of ruined school for me a little bit, just from worrying that the teacher would say, stand up and say something. Wow. So I just didn't think I could do it. And I still don't know how he convinced me to. Like, I think basically he said, no one will know. You won't know anyone there. Just have a go. So he said, do 5 minutes. And it was downstairs at the King's Head, where you could just turn up on a Thursday. And if people don't show up, you can just get on.
Right.
So I went along, and I'd never been to a comedy club before this. First time going to a comedy club, and I was going to do a gig. And I think he'd given me like a week to write 5 minutes, which is not long enough when you don't know what you're doing. And luckily, I didn't get on.
Right.
I think which was really lucky, because he went on, did a bit. I got the experience. I watched what was going on. And then I think I went back a month later, but by then I'd had a bit longer to try and work out what I was going to do, and it wasn't a disaster. And then I carried on. But I think if I'd have done the first gig, it probably would have been awful, and then I'd never have done it again.
It's funny because my background, I currently work in a school on a school reception. But before that, I was in the civil service, and on a training course, I was asked to describe something to someone that is unique. So I described to them the only card trick I ever knew, and I used to hate having to stand up in front of people and whatever. So I've been practicing this trick. I've been doing this trick for like 30 years, and I stood up, and of course I forgot it. So I was like a rabbit in headlights, and it's awful. But a reason why I write my blog is that it's like an enthuse, I say to folk. It's because of all the people who get up and actually have to make an audience laugh within a minute of doing it. It's extraordinary. Your type of comedy is puns, one-liners, which I absolutely love. And so your first gig was that was downstairs at the King's Head, is that right? What year was that?
Possibly, oh god, 2000, late 2007.
Right, because
I think
I've been going there for years. It's in Crouch End, and I saw Harry Hill there 30 years ago, and been going there quite. It's a wonderful space to play because you've got all the acoustics and everything, and it's a perfectly sized room.
When I started, I was very kind of sporadic with gigs. I didn't do many until about 2009. I decided to really go for it.
Right.
But I used to just go to the King's Head once every. I mean, I can't remember, but even walking past or driving past that place brings back so many memories. It's like real nostalgia of that kind of that feeling that I had inside me whenever I go there. It was such a cool place, such a cool vibe, and I'm nervous, but it was this underground thing, and you didn't know what was going to happen. And I remember walking around the block all the time, running through my 5 minutes because I was just scared I'd forget it. And the buzz from going on stage and getting a laugh was it's crazy. I don't get that now, and I do miss that feeling. The closest I ever get is if I'm doing a new material night and I'm going on totally fresh without any jokes that I know work, and I get a few of those kind of jitters then, but that feeling I do miss that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Where did the puns and one-liners come from? Where do they come from
as a style? I don't I think my brain just works that way. Because even when I started, my friend, because he was obviously the first influence on what I did, and he very much pushed the surreal kind of style of comedy to me, because it was that you want to stand out when you're starting.
Yeah, you do.
And I loved Mighty Boosh and all those kind of guys. So I was doing that, but the actual essence of what I was doing was one-liners, so it didn't match, and I was doing it for a long time, and I never really get, like, I go on like Noel Fielding, that energy, go, "Hey, whoa," sort of thing. But my jokes were ones where you have to think about it to get it. And I remember a big turning point in it wasn't even the career then, but I did a Laughing Horse new act competition. Right. It wasn't their normal one. It was a weird one they put on where you literally go on and do 2-3 minutes. And I was in the final of that and just went on and died. And I just went for this walk around the block in Wimbledon. And that was a moment I realised that my style wasn't matching what I was saying. Right. Because I'd be doing these jokes where you'd have to think about it and get it. But I was already moving on to the next bit because I was so high energy. So the audience wasn't getting a chance to actually take in what I was saying. And then as soon as I changed that and slowed down, my gigs went better. Yeah. And from then I started getting into sort of doing well in competitions and things. But it was all from that moment of realising that. That's brilliant, because you do have to find your own voice, I think. And once you've got it, it's your unique take on what you want to say. Yeah, because like so my family are quite, my brother and my dad are quite sort of, they always used, when I was a kid, they always used to do that sort of smart ass thing where you'd say something and then they deliberately take the other meaning. Yeah. And then I'd be like, no, that's not what I mean, that's not what I mean. But that was ingrained in me, I think. So I'm now like that, so I think like that. Yeah, it's all a pun is a word play, so it's all about the take on the word. Yeah, fascinating. To date, what's been your best and worst gig? I mean there's loads of both. I mean, there's so many to choose from. What, best ones? And worst. Yeah. Like, so I'd say best gigs, I mean, so doing Mock the Week for the first time was, I mean, there is still a gig. It doesn't sound, it's not really a gig, but it is a gig because there's an audience. Yeah. And that was big because that was one of my long-term goals, to do that show. Yeah. And that was a real achievement personally. And then, but there's and basically anytime I've set a goal and I've done it, that to me, they're the best gigs.
Right.
But like I used to, so when I worked at Canterbury University at the sports department for the first sort of 8 years of doing comedy. And when I was starting out, I used to always go to the Gulbenkian Theatre and I'd watch the comedians' theatre shows.
Right.
And I just always watched the support acts in awe, thinking, that's what I want to do. I want to be, I loved that whole idea of all these people there and the support acts, you don't know who they are, but they're always great and it's a surprise. So it's always a nice sort of vibe you get, I think, when there's a good support act. So when I started doing tour supports, that was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And then there's loads. I could talk forever. But,
Please do.
Rob Brydon. I supported Rob Brydon for the first time. It was a 2,500 seater, and that was the biggest gig I'd done. And it's so suited to my style because you do a joke, and then everyone who gets it straight away laughs, and then the ones that catch up, there's just this beautiful wave with that many people, and you got so much time to think. Like I love that. That's one of my favourite ones.
Yeah. And realising that you've told the joke and getting a wave of laughter back must be extraordinary.
Because you can really take it in then. Because like with a lot of gigs, if it's a low number audience, as soon as you do the joke, your brain's got to be right. What's next? What's next? Like a snooker player, you're thinking all the shots ahead.
Right.
Whereas when you've got that wave of laughter, you can just enjoy the moment. I love it. I really love it.
That's brilliant. That's so good. Let's move on to Edinburgh. I go to the Edinburgh.
Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you any bad gigs.
Yes, please. If you've got some, please do.
There's one that always sticks in my mind.
Yeah.
Coventry Showcase Cinemas.
Right.
It's just a cinema, and it's kitted out for a comedy night every weekend. And I had so many bad gigs there, but I don't know why they kept booking me, but. It was awful. And then in the end, I worked out how to play it. But this one gig, it was so bad that someone was heckling me, but they weren't aggressively heckling me. They were just telling me every time another member of the audience left.
Wow. Oh, that's
there's
not good.
There's another one gone.
Oh.
That was awful.
That must be so draining on you as well to know that must be awful.
Back then, that was the cross time between sort of doing professional gigs and being a professional. Is that in between phase where you're not 100% comfortable and confident, so that affects you then. If that happened now, I'd enjoy that moment and probably turn it around.
So to get the experience, did you go through a number of 5-minute appearances in pubs and take friends along and practice it all out? That's how it worked, yeah?
Yeah, so it went 5 minutes, travelling everywhere for nothing, 5 everywhere. And I did a lot of that. I did a long apprenticeship in comedy. So I really didn't, I didn't do a course or anything. So I was always learning on the job. So it took a while to work out, even just how to write a joke, it took me a while. So it's 5 minutes, and then when you do well, you can do 10, and then competitions. Once I got into some finals, that's when proper clubs would then say you could do the open spot on a professional bill, right? Which would be 5 to 10, and that's when, if you do well there, then they bump you up that way. But it's a long old process. Seems like a long time ago now.
Yeah. Well, you've got far, my friend. You've gone very far. Let's move on to Edinburgh. As I say, my holidays, my home city is Carlisle, but I've worked in London for the last 27 years. Right. And I do go to Carlisle quite a bit, and in the summer. And my holiday is always the Edinburgh Fringe. I've been very lucky to go for a week and see about 50 shows. So I always pick the middle week and I go, and I just have the time of my life. What was your first Edinburgh festival like, and when was it?
It would have been 2008.
Right.
And I went up with that friend of mine.
Right.
Or did I? Oh, it was a bit mixed. So we did a show called the Amused Moose Hot Starlets,
Right.
where it was in a tent, and it was Hills Jago put it on, and it's basically anyone that she saw in her competition that year that if not if you, I didn't get very far in it that year, but if she saw something in you, she'd invite you up to that, and you'd have big mixed bill shows, and you'd do sort of 4 or 5 days each, and then you'd go home.
Right.
So I went up, and that was sort of went up and saw how it all worked. But it's really weird. I was up there with a friend of mine. I always remember this, and it's a real mystery. And this might not sound very exciting, but there was this strange thing. It was in a, you know how creepy some of the places are, like the flats in. It was on South Bridge or North, one of the bridges,
right,
and up a little bit up above a bookshop was the flat. And I was in the bed, and my friend was sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag. And in the night, something happened, and when we woke up, we'd switched.
Wow.
And we have no memory or recollection of why that happened.
That's weird.
Yeah, and there was some creepy thing happened, like with the ghosty sort of thing happened in the bathroom. We remember like a shower just turned on out of nowhere or something.
Wow. So I presume you changed accommodation the following year.
Yeah. I think we was, I don't know, yeah, it was really odd.
That is bizarre. And was that the first year you went up? Wow.
Yeah, because again, like I knew nothing, so for that friend of mine actually that got me into comedy, we crossed over. So he was in the Hot Starlets, but he'd got a week later than me or something. So he stayed in our accommodation, but we just switched. So that worked quite well.
Wow, amazing. And so the first Edinburgh, did it encourage you to go back? Yeah. You had a great time. It was a successful run.
Absolutely loved it. I think that was when Stuart Lee did his 51st Best Comedian Show or 43rd. I can't remember what the title was. And I remember watching that and thinking, wow, this is wow, you can do anything with comedy. like with Edinburgh shows. That's what I quite liked, is that there's no rules at all. Once you do your own show, you can do anything you like within that show.
Yeah.
So I liked that, and that influenced how I put my Edinburgh shows together. So it's not just jokes all the way through, there's other things going on. You
wanted a structure to it as well as the jokes, yeah?
Yeah, and that really influenced me.
Yeah.
That whole experience. And I saw other people like Ed Axel.
Yeah.
Just in a free fringe venue, and I really was interested in how he put his shows together. I like the kind of weirder acts. They tend to make me laugh more than anyone else.
Brilliant. Yeah.
But
specific nutcases, I like them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like nutcases but they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Not just the lunatics.
You were nominated for the Amused Moose Best Show for your solo show One-Linerer in 2017. Tell me more about this. Tell me more about going for competitions, and do you think they are useful on your comedy journey? Were you nervous entering them? Tell me the process about that.
So with that one, that's slightly a different one. But like with the new act competitions, I think they are really important. It's a shame because that competitive element to it isn't really what it should be all about. But like I said earlier, once you get to a final, doors open up in clubs, and if you win one, I mean, I never actually won a proper one. I came runner up in a couple of the bigger ones, but if you win, all of a sudden you're that can really push you up quite quick. But I'm kind of glad I didn't win, because at that point I wouldn't have been ready to move up too quick. It took me a while to learn what I was doing.
Yeah.
But it sort of verifies you. It's like it's your blue tick on your act a little bit. Every sort of little success you get, it just says to someone else, oh, he does know what he's doing, so we'll book him.
See, right.
But the Amuse Moose, the best show one, that's for your whole show, and you film it and then you send it in,
right?
And then, I mean, they watch loads of them, and then the better ones, I think they then come to see in person. Right. So it's a bit like the Edinburgh Award, but lower sort of. I don't know how you describe it.
Yeah,
it's not as prestigious.
Yeah,
and I think the idea is they do that to give people a chance that the Edinburgh Award aren't looking at.
Right.
People maybe who can't afford all the PR and all that sort of thing. But that show was a real game changer for me, because up to that point, I'd always had clever show titles for a joke in the show, but the show title never really said what I did. So I'd get people not knowing what they were coming to see. Like, for example, my first show was called Mr., so MR, which is a terrible, terrible show title. And that was just for a joke in a show where I said I didn't want to call it that. Just when the show application form came, at the top it said title. So when a reviewer came, they loved that joke, but it didn't help me sell tickets and get people in.
Oh.
And I did that for 3 years in a row. So the next show was called Laugh Yourself Thin.
Right.
And it had a picture with me with big jeans on, like the classic Weight Watchers. and that was for a joke, because my agent said I need to attract a bigger audience.
Yes.
so for that, but I'd get people coming thinking it was some sort of storytelling show about dramatic weight loss, and so I'd have people that don't like one-liners, so the gigs didn't always go particularly well, because as you know, being in so many audiences, you kind of either like one-liners or you don't get them.
Right. No, I love them. I absolutely love them,
which is why you are always welcome.
The Amused Moose contacted me for in my blog. They sent me a comment when I started my blog off, and they invited me to a half-day writing course, and so I went along, and I was with a group of reviewers, and they came round to me and they said, "We can't remember why we invited you, but can you explain?" And I said, well, I got an invite, and I said, "I'm not a reviewer, I'm not a diarist, I'm not a critique, I'm not a reporter. I'm a member of the audience out to have a good time, and when I go, I enjoy myself, and I hope my blog reflects that." And they went, "Oh yes, we like you," and they moved on to the other one. Never bothered me much, but I learnt a lot from the half day as to how to just reflect my experiences of watching you all. It's fascinating.
So with that show, I called it One-Linerer.
Yeah.
And it was just like I just had this thought that, well, if I just called it that, everyone. I do the free fringe. I've never done the PR stuff. Like I said, I've never been able to afford it. And so what that did, which I didn't know this would have quite as good an effect, but anyone going through the brochure who was like, "Oh, I've got nothing to do at 3 o'clock. Oh, there's a show called One-Linerer here. Oh, I like one-liners."
Yeah.
So I'd be full every day, and I didn't flyer. I didn't flyer at all. First year I've never flyered, and it was full. And it was for the people that liked what I did.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So that sort of that was a game changer for me with Edinburgh.
Yeah,
like it took a lot of the stress out, and then I could just concentrate on the show.
Well, I love the fact that the following year your show was called One-Linerer.
And then the next year, One-Linerer.
Everybody knows exactly what it is, and then it's just like a sequel of it. It's brilliant.
I'm hoping in a few years, or 30 years time, it's just going to keep going.
That would be really funny.
Just becomes an in-joke.
You mentioned before about tour support, and you are a fantastic support act. You really are. You've toured for Sean Walsh, Rob Beckett, and Rob Brydon. Describe these experiences. They were obviously bigger theatres, but have you played arenas as well as bigger theatres, or what's that experience like?
Yeah, I loved tour support. Is that where you first saw me?
I first saw you supporting Sean Walsh.
I thought so.
And then I saw you at Always Be Comedy, and I saw you at Brighton after Darren Walsh's show, because you were following on straight after him, and I had to get my train. Otherwise, I'd have come to see you there.
I've never done arenas.
No,
never done an arena, which I'd love to try. One-liner comedians at the highest level don't seem to do arenas.
Right.
I don't know if that's.
Why is that?
I mean, I don't really know, but it could be a performance thing, because it's such a big space.
Yeah.
The best people that sell those fill that space, whereas one-liner comics tend to be fairly still, so that all the concentration's on the jokes.
Right. Right.
That's my thought. That I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd love to try it.
I love one-line comedians. I would put Tim Vine, Milton Jones, Stuart Francis, Darren Walsh, and yourself. I think the five of you on one bill, I could watch all night, even though it's the same.
Which is weird, because that normally wouldn't work.
No,
because they normally try and separate.
Similar thing, yeah.
But if it, like I say, if all those acts were on that bill, the people that came would be like yourself, the people that love that.
Yeah.
That would be a hard bill to headline. Like, who would headline that? My gut instinct would it'd have to be Tim Vine, because of the energy.
Well, the energy, and my guess is, has he been going the longest?
I think he and Milton are roughly the same.
Maybe, yeah.
I think they were both nominated for Best Newcomer year after each other.
Right. So supporting Sean Walsh, Rob Beckett.
Sorry.
No, because it all links in, because that's your style of comedy. Is ideal to warm an audience up with just a one-liner, because it's a short attention span before you move on to the next one, and folk will get drawn in. I think it's fascinating.
Also, but all of those acts I supported are all very big performers.
Yeah, very visual and very moving around a lot. Yeah.
So I think it's always best if the person, it's like I've seen very still acts that are the main act be supported by bigger acts that compare and are here and there. Just seeing the contrast really helps, I think. You don't want anything too similar.
Yeah.
But I got a lot from those supports. I got a lot of different things out of them, because when I did the Sean support, Sean Walsh, I was newer. I hadn't played those big rooms before, and I was still finding myself on stage. And he was excellent. He was an excellent person to tour with. Even though we don't do the same style of comedy, he really understands comedy.
Yes, yeah.
And he gave me so many tips, performance tips, how to play the big rooms, where to face, to go slower. When you think that you're going the right speed, go slower. And all those sort of things. And my writing. Now, when I was with Sean, he has this style where he gets them up there, and then he keeps them up there, the laughter level. And so all the time, I'm quite competitive, probably my sporty background. I was like, I want to get that. That's what I'm aiming for. So what I did, I became really ruthless with my jokes, and I'd only really, anything that didn't really hit well, I'd just get rid of. So my set got so much stronger. Basically, it's like if you're a boxer, sparring with a better opponent makes you better. And it wasn't. But then I realised that my style of comedy, you can't have that constant up there, because each joke is compared to the net. They're all compared to each other.
Yeah.
And if all your jokes are up there, it will gradually come down. You need this up and down with one-liners, because to get a bigger laugh, it needs to be a bit better than the one before, and things like that. And because I watched the Milton show, DVD maybe after that, and then I'd never noticed it before. But his work, he'd have a little laugh, bigger laugh, bigger laugh, big laugh, big laugh, little laugh, little laugh. It's
fascinating to watch him. Yeah,
and he's the best.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So Sean got me up there, and then I sort of adjusted. It just basically talking with him made me so much better comedian, which really helped me with doing the other tour supports.
Yeah.
Because I knew what I was doing. I was an expert in tour support by then.
Sean Walsh has done one of these interviews. And,
cool.
And it was fascinating to see how he gets up there every performance, you know.
I look forward to watching
that. To listen to how he went about it was extraordinary.
Great.
How do you remember all the jokes? Do you have a method of remembering them all?
I clump them together in loose groups, or if they're not specifically, so say all my girlfriend jokes are in a group,
right?
All my friend jokes are in a group, all my job jokes are in a group. So that's how I kind of remember them as set pieces. And then some jokes that don't fit in groups, I'll have connections that I understand,
right?
But no one else probably would. But because I know the connection, it doesn't. I know where it's going.
Yeah.
Like I'm just putting a set together for this thing I'm recording on Thursday, and it's a set that I can't use anything that I've recorded on anything before.
Right.
So I've really had to kind of knit it all together.
Yeah.
These jokes that wouldn't normally be in the same sections.
Right.
So I've got a couple of job jokes, and then I was trying to get this link to my friend jokes, and I was thinking, how can I do it? And one of my friend's jokes is about a mugging. So he wants me to join his gang. So to me, joining the gang is a bit like a job. So my connection there is I'm going from that job to the gang, but I know that because there's a connection of it's just similar to a job, and then the job then leads on to the other friend jokes because the mugging one is linked to the friend. So that's how I sort of get it going in my head. But lots of people have different techniques. I know Delaney does the mind palace thing,
right?
Where he puts jokes in different rooms in a house, but I can't get my head around that. So it's just that my brain doesn't work.
Thing, though, that
I don't think I'm clever enough.
Them, I think that's why. That's why he's doing it. How do you cope with any nerves before you go on stage? Do you suffer from nerves or?
No, not anymore.
No.
When I do new material, like I said earlier, I do get nervous.
Right.
But I enjoy that kind of nerves. But there's no pressure on those gigs. If I was doing a TV gig, I could get a bit nervous.
Yeah.
But I think what I do, I've got this thing, and I don't think anyone else does this, but so a lot of people say nerves help their performance because of like an energy thing, but nerves are the worst thing for my performance. Like it just doesn't work for me. If I'm nervous, maybe I'll go too fast and I don't get my words right. So in my head, I've got this little ritual thing I do before I go on, and I get into a mindset that I don't give a shit. So no matter
genius.
no matter how important the gig is, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Don't give a shit. And then I'm so relaxed then. And my stuff always works better if I'm really chilled and relaxed,
right,
and then whatever happens, I just roll with it. And I've managed to do that, so it kind of happens automatically now. Because it sounds awful, like going on saying I don't give a shit, but it just gets me in that zone of doesn't matter what happens, I can deal with it. Doesn't matter. There's no, it's just there's no pressure about not getting booked again and things like that. I just get into my head that way. Because
what a good way of looking at it, though. That's fantastic. Because your nerves will just vanish.
They do. Yeah, it works. I don't know how.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's just me.
No, brilliant. Now, this next question, I asked Darren Walsh this question, and he did answer it. But basically, what I did, I gave him 5 separate words and from the separate words, he gave me 5 separate one-liners. Can you do that, or do you have to go away and write it, or can you do it off the top of your head? If I gave you one word, you gave me a joke back.
I do that in my shows.
Yeah.
So I'll ask for a topic. Like I don't. But that's my goal. My goal is to have a joke on everything. So if that happens,
well, I look forward to seeing you till the day I die.
Yeah, that's going to be like a show one day of mine. Is just I'm not prepared. Just let's go with what you want to do.
So I've got 5 words for you. And could you give me a joke? Let's try it. So the first word I've got is Richard, my name.
See, that's quite so when people give, so some people give generic ones that are sort of people go to quite a lot, but when people get specific, it's quite, you can maneuver. There's a technique in how to do it. But Richard, I did have a joke ages ago. Oh, I doubt I ever even did it on stage. It was topical.
Well, this is brilliant.
when Richard, which Richard was found in a car park?
Richard II.
Was it Richard II?
Yeah.
And it was like an Audi car park or something.
Yes.
Which was a shame because it could have been Little Richard.
I like
the thing with that joke, I think I wrote it when it happened, but there's such an old reference now. It's not even.
Well, I like that. That's the first one. The second one's blancmange.
Again, blancmange. I mean, why would I ever have written a joke about blancmange? But if you said that to me, so do it as if it was a gig. So give me a topic. Say blancmange.
Cooking.
Oh no, just say blancmange.
Blancmange.
I'd have gone, oh sweet. So that's like a little cheat around having to do a full joke.
That's fine. So that's 2. Number 3 is my home city, Carlisle.
So specific. And I've never been. I don't think I've ever even done a gig in Carlisle, so I wouldn't have ever written a specific Carlisle joke. But what I'd say is, I went to Carlisle. Is there a castle in Carlisle?
Yeah. Famous.
I went to Carlisle. I asked my girlfriend if she wanted to go and see the castle. She said no. Well, it was just a fort. I
like that. I will tell that all round Carlisle. That is very good. I've got waistcoat at the number 4, and I've got a.
So I have got a waistcoat joke, but it's not very good.
Go on, please.
So it's waistcoats are over the top.
Yes, and the last one's Olympics.
Olympics. I had an Olympic joke in 2012, and I'll probably make it. What's the next Olympics? Can you remember? Do you know?
It's this year. I can't remember where it is. Is it
this year?
Is it Japan?
Oh, it was meant to be last year, wasn't it?
It was supposed to be 2020, but they're going to do it in 2021.
And it's in. I
think it's in Japan, isn't it?
Is it Japan?
I don't know. I think so.
What is Tokyo? Tokyo, isn't it?
I think
okay,
so.
I mean, this would be quite a long-winded way of getting to it. So my friend said to me, he said, how many countries are represented in the Tokyo Olympics 2021? I said, no, not as many as that. So I can reuse that every time there's an Olympics.
Very good. Thank you so much for doing that, because I know it's horrible being put on the spot.
No, I enjoy it. It's a quiz. I think it's a quiz. And if I ever really can't think of something, I write it down, and then that's my mission, to make that one work.
Yeah, exactly. What's your ambition as a comedian? Would you like your own quiz show? Would you like your own talk show? Would you like to be on TV? Are you happy just carrying on as you are? Is there an ambition?
Oh, there's lots of ambition, but there's lots of. That's the beauty of this job. I'm very much a goal-oriented person, and again, I think that's from the sport background.
Right.
And so I've got lots of little goals. Well, they're not even little; they're big goals. But what's nice is a chance I could get some of them. You never know.
Yeah.
So one of my main goals is to tour the country in theatres to people that are coming specifically to see me. That's a dream, to be able to do that. But to do that, you need the other goals to happen. Like, I'd like to do my stand-up on a proper, like, stand-up only TV show. I haven't done that before.
Right.
Do Live at the Apollo or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, I love to. I'm not an actor, but I can act a bit. I'd love to do a sitcom. I've written a sitcom, so I mean, I'd love to do that and make it.
Yeah, that would.
I mean, there's just so many things. I mean, I'd love to be a Hollywood actor. I mean, there's loads of things I'd love to do.
My friend. That would be. That's amazing.
But yeah, just lots of just and mate. I mean, the thing is, it's the best job in the world.
Yeah.
So even if I don't make those goals, I'm not going to be unhappy.
No.
Because I get to do this thing that's such a privilege to be able to go and earn a living. Just earning a living, dude. That's the thing. Because of how I started this, the idea of just people pay. I remember the first time someone paid me, the first paid gig, someone paid me £20, and that blew my mind.
Wow.
I'm getting paid money to do this thing I like doing. It blows my mind. And you always have to try and remember that, because when you go up the ladder of achievements, you kind of get to a bit like, you should, that you deserve it. You don't. Well, you work hard, you get what, you know, if you work hard, you can get there, but you just got to remember that that's like, so many people don't enjoy their work.
Well, it's wonderful that you're doing something that you love. As well, you know, because if you are, it's like me with the blog, because hopefully I come across as being extremely passionate about it. You get the best out of me doing it. So you know, that's and the success with the figures and all the rest of it is there for people to see. It is an extraordinary art form, and I can't get enough of it. It's good. It's wonderful. 2020 and the start of 2021 has been a very strange, weird time for everybody. How have you found online gigs as opposed to live gigs?
So when it all started, I was convinced it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And I even had a conversation with my agent. I said, I don't want to do them. And that was so short-sighted of me, because now I love them, which is ridiculous. I feel like such an idiot.
No, it's.
But it was the idea of, especially with one-liners, before they discovered that you can have a front row where you can hear the laughter. The thought of doing one-liners and into the abyss with no one-liners look awful. They really look awful when there's no laugh.
Silence.
Even the best one, like even Tim Vine. If Tim Vine came on and he did all his jokes to silence, you think this isn't very good. Because it's so important to have that laughter. Because of the timing. Because just leaving a gap is so awkward. Whereas some comedians were more natural to those, because they would just keep talking, and if it's amusing, it's watchable. But then when the front rows came in, I did a few. I was like, hang on, this is a gig.
This is
And it's been an absolute godsend, because I just the fact that you can do gigs and get paid proper gig money now for
doing this.
So I absolutely love them, and I will miss them. And to be honest, so I've got a mailing list. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see the one I put on a gig where I was just trying loads of new stuff?
Yeah.
And so I did 2 of those, and they were busy. I was so chuffed with that. It's that whole thing of touring to people that like what you do. I still got that same sort of sense of achievement when these people come to Zoom to see what I was doing. I loved it. And so I'm now writing some new stuff to do another one of those.
Brilliant. Yeah.
But I think that will continue.
I think so as well. My view is that online comedy has gotten me through lockdown to be able to do this I would just be looking at four walls and going out my mind. But when they started to do them, there was no audio at all. So with my loud laugh, I was just sitting here laughing loudly, and I thought I was going to be taken away, you know. I thought, this isn't going to work. But Always Be Comedy is the one that I go to every week, either online or live, and that's where I saw you do a good 20 minutes live, and I thought, oh, this is magic because of the live experience. And James Gill, who runs Always Be Comedy, opened up the front row, and so the audio was there, and the comedians and he could chat to the front row, and the laughter and everything. And I always think it's the best substitute. It's a wonderful format, and I think it will continue. But for me, you can't beat live, because you never know what you're going to get within a live atmosphere, and I miss that so much. And I really hope it comes back soon. I still think gigs will be streamed, of live gigs. That might be a good idea for folk who can't get to them. But
well, that's what I was thinking, because even if I put on a Sunday afternoon Zoom show, even though people can go out to watch comedy, they might just want to sit at home and watch it like you'd watch a TV show.
Exactly. So it's going to be interesting what does happen. Who are your favourite comedians, past and present?
Lots. So like I said earlier, so for me to go and watch an Edinburgh show or be excited about watching someone, because you see so much comedy, I need to see something that's totally different to really get me going, to really make me laugh. So you sort of, any of the weirdos, you know, you sort of your Spencer Jones or
oh, I love him.
Paul Foot or anyone like that. They get me. And then I like it's the one-liner comedians. Like I love all the ones you've named, but I wouldn't go and watch them now for fun.
No,
but I'd watch them to be kind of in awe of their creativity. Like I'll always go and watch Gary Delaney's shows in Edinburgh.
Well, he's the other one,
because he's such a good joke writer. I like to watch and just go, that's great. Do you know what I mean? rather than sort of be pissing myself.
I would.
I will laugh at really ones I don't see coming at all. Because you're watching and you're analysing so much that you don't get the same enjoyment out of, I don't know what Spencer Jones is going to do next. You know what I mean? But Lee Mack is one of my favourite TV comedians.
He makes it look so easy.
He's always been. When I started, he was one of the people. Him, Rod Gilbert, those sort of people I really looked at when I was trying to work out what I was. And I mean that Will I Lie to You show is just, it couldn't be more perfect for him.
Perfect for him. But
he hosted my So You Think You're Funny final in Edinburgh.
Wow.
So that was a big deal for me back in 2009. I was in awe of him, and he was so funny backstage. Just constant. He's just constantly funny. And Rob Brydon said to me, because they're good friends through doing that show. He said Lee Mack is one of the people that makes him laugh the most.
He is.
He's just funny.
I've seen Lee Mack about 3 or 4 times, and I saw Hit the Road Mac at Hammersmith Apollo, and I was laughing all the way through. There was no break for me. I could hardly latch on to the next joke. He was being so funny, you know.
Is that the one where he starts with putting someone from the audience in a box?
Yeah.
That is one of my favourite jokes. So that's what I like. That is an example of what I got out of that first Edinburgh. You can do whatever you like. So to people that don't know what that is, I don't think it's a spoiler really now.
No.
He comes out like he's a magician, and he's got this box, and he's got 2 people, and he's like acting all kind of mysterious, and he gets a child or a younger person out of the audience, and he puts them in the box, locks them up, pushes them away, massive thing, gets the mic, music goes off, he goes, I did say no kids, and it's the best joke. It's the best. I think that is the best start to a gig you can have. It's theatrical. It gets the attention.
Yeah.
And it's just a silly joke.
It's up there. It's up there for me. Like I said earlier, when I first saw Harry Hill at Downstairs the King's Head, he brushed past me. This is 30 years ago, before he was famous, and he jumped up onto the stage and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry I'm late. I had to have a testicle brought down," and there was a pause and a laugh, and then he said, "From Derby," and that just was genius. The reason I asked that question is that there's a section in my blog called "The Ones That Got Away." So I've written 25 comedians who have either sadly passed on or I haven't been able to see, because every one that I've been fortunate to see, there's so many memories for me, and that's where the blog came from. So the ones that got away, the ultimate ones for me were Morecambe and Wise. I'd love to have seen them. Dave Allen's in there, Mike Reed's in there, Norman Wisdom, on and on and on. But it's just wonderful having so many good memories of such a wonderful format. Like me, do you go to a lot of comedy gigs as a member of the audience, or did you before you became a comedian?
I did in the early days when I was like a sponge. I just wanted to learn everything I could. So I was very lucky. I had it wasn't a good paid job, but I was living at, when I left uni, moved back in with my mum. I started doing comedy, so my money was going all on driving to gigs, and then I also could afford to watch shows at the Gulbenkian. So I went as much as I possibly could. I saw everybody. But the more, like, as a professional comedian now, I should be working. That would be the hope. But I'd only really be able to make a special effort to go and see someone I really wanted to see, and I'd book it out of the diary. Like I did that with Eddie Izzard because I wanted to see him live.
He's incredible.
When anyone that comes, like I've been to see that. I tell you what, I'm not into American comedy at all, really. It's not really my thing. But if a big named American comic comes over, I want to see them.
Right.
So it's like I saw Seinfeld when he came over. I was lucky and I got given a ticket to one of the closed showings that he did before his big shows.
Yeah.
And I love Seinfeld talking about comedy. I can't get enough of that. Any TV show he's doing, an interview, podcast, talking about comedy. I love how much he loves comedy. That's what I get out from him. That I really relate to that. But his actual comedy, it's not really my cup of tea.
No.
But I wanted to see him in person because he's a legend. And seeing him in person, I had much more appreciation for what he does. Like I got a lot more out of it seeing it live. And I saw Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, all those sort of people. And what's nice about those guys is they bring really great tour supports.
Yeah.
Like who's the guy that does the roast? Jeff Ross?
Ross, yeah.
And Anthony Jeselnik, who I think is one of the best joke writers in the world.
Yeah.
He supported. I think he supported Chris Rock.
Right.
And so I like seeing those guys.
I was very lucky enough to see Bill Hicks in Manchester, and he was incredible. And I saw Steve Martin with his bluegrass group at Hammersmith, and he was fantastic. He started doing all the old routines with the arrow through the head and everything, and I love him as a film comedian. And it was so good to see him trying to get back to his, because he sold out America before he was a film star. and
Yes.
that was wonderful to see. And so again, memories of watching them all.
Yeah.
I've much enjoyed talking to you. Just before we go, is there anything else you'd like to say? Have you got any online gigs coming up? Have you got any writing? Where can people find you on social media?
So, so on social media, on all social media, it's at Jokes with Mark. So that's easy to find.
Yeah.
At Jokes with Mark. And so whenever this comes out, I don't know what gigs I'll have, but I do a podcast, a weekly podcast called Jokes with Mark Simmons. So again, easy to remember, where I chat to another comedian about jokes that they had to drop for whatever reason.
Brilliant.
Whereas it
That's
might,
a great idea.
might not be funny enough, might be too offensive. It could be anything. And I've had some really great guests on there: Sarah Millican, Rob Beckett, Sean Walsh, Ed Byrne, Milton Jones, Gary Delaney. So there's I've been doing it for about 2 years. I absolutely love it, and that's actually got me through lockdown. Just being able to chat to people on Zoom and record the podcast.
Yeah.
So that's Jokes with Mark Simmons. So go check that out. And that, I mean, on social media, you'll see what gigs I'm doing. I always post what I'm up to.
That is brilliant, my friend. Well, I'm looking forward very much to seeing you live soon, hopefully, when we're back to normal, and definitely online soon, because I think you're a major talent, and I wish you every success, my friend.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks so much for having me on. This has been really fun.
Good. I'm so pleased. Thank you so much.